There's a river underneath the Sahara, not a dried-up river you can see. I mean a river that disappeared thousands of years ago and is still written into the land. And that's not even the strangest thing buried here, because this desert was once covered in lakes, crossed by rivers, and home to animals you would never expect to find in the Sahara. So how did one of the driest places on Earth become this and then turn into this? So how did this massive green landscape turn into one of the driest places on Earth? The answer starts with something almost invisible. Earth was moving differently. Thousands of years ago, subtle changes in Earth's orbit and tilt altered how sunlight reached the northern hemisphere. And that changed something much more important: the African monsoon. The rains began reaching farther into North Africa, and once the water arrived, the desert started fighting back. Grass appeared, plants spread, lakes began filling, and rivers started cutting through land that today looks completely lifeless. Animals followed the water, people followed the animals, and suddenly, the Sahara wasn't a wasteland anymore. It was an ecosystem. But here's the mystery: if the Sahara could become green, where did all of that water go? Because when the climate shifted again, the rain moved away, the lakes disappeared, the rivers dried up, and the green landscape slowly became desert. But not all the water disappeared. Some of it went underground. Deep beneath parts of the Sahara are enormous groundwater systems. Some of that water entered the ground during much wetter periods in the region's past, which means you can stand in one of the driest environments on Earth, while beneath you is water that has been underground for thousands of years. But groundwater isn't the only evidence that the Sahara had a completely different past, because scientists have found something that sounds almost ridiculous: whales in the desert. Actual fossilized remains of ancient whales have been discovered in the Egyptian desert. And here's the strange part: these fossils weren't found near today's coastline. They were found in an area called Wadi Al-Hitan, the Valley of the Whales. Millions of years ago, this wasn't a desert at all. It was part of an ancient sea, and the fossils found there preserve an extraordinary chapter in the evolution of whales, back when their ancestors were still adapting to life in the water. So now we have two completely different clues: ancient water beneath the sand, and ancient marine life preserved above it. And both are telling us the same thing: the Sahara we see today is only the latest version of this landscape. But the strangest discovery wasn't the number of whales, it was something hiding on their skeletons. Some of these ancient whales still had hind limbs, and in some fossils, those limbs included actual feet and toes. Think about that for a second. These animals were already living in the ocean, yet their bodies still carried evidence of a time when their ancestors lived on land. So why would a whale need legs? The answer becomes even more interesting when you look at the fossils across different stages. Some of these early whales still had relatively large limbs, but later forms show something changing. The hind limbs became smaller, their connection to the spine became less important for supporting the body, and their swimming was shifting toward movement through the middle of the body and the tail. In other words, the whale wasn't just getting better at living in water, its entire body was being reshaped for life in the ocean.